So today, last time I done a video on the truck bed, I held a vote and it was either toolbox doors or the gooseneck hitch tray. And of course, that's done. The gooseneck hitch tray is. So now I need to make the doors for these toolboxes. And so today I'm going to go through and use these old toolbox door frames where I was going to make those doors originally, and I'm going to cut those up and size them down and use them for that. And I've got me some sheet metal for the doors. And so basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you guys through the motion of doing that, and then I'll go get the hinges and we'll see if we can't mount one of them today. So start cutting stuff up. Alright, so you guys have seen the door frame that I built out of the metal that we pulled off of the roll bar because I like the size of it better. If you haven't, you can go back and watch that video. And what we're doing today is I've got the door frames that I built before we done that are actually made out of a little bit smaller angle iron. And I got to cut these down to size. Currently they're the same size as the door frame that's there. We'll cut them down, make them really fit inside of it. We're going to use some stainless steel hinges. We're going to use a T-latch, and I'm going to use this molding here that has a seal on it to make a fully functional sealable toolbox door to keep my tools and trays and stuff in there and keep everything from getting wet and carried on my truck where I can lock it with a key. So in a minute. Okay, so first things first is the angle iron that I have is smaller than the angle iron that is here, and it actually works out best if I make the interior of both door frames the same size, and that will make the outside smaller, but it'll actually cause this seal to be able to sit on the lip properly and mash it down. So I need to make my new door frame about 13 3/4 inside to inside on the sides. That's pretty consistent up and down there. And then on the top I need to go for 26. Yep, that one's a little smaller, 26. We're still gonna call it 26 though, because it ain't much different, and that could be a little bit different in the middle there. So 26 inches. So we'll go over to the welding bench and check out that door frame and see what we need to cut out of it. So we are currently about 14 3/8 side to side. That needs to be the 13 3/4. And then top to bottom we are about 26 5/8. Yep, and that needs to be 26. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this thing up and shrink it down to size. I'll probably go ahead and cut the sections out of the center of it and just pull it in because I don't want to mess these corners up too bad. And a couple of these aren't really square, so I'm going to splice them in the center and kind of correct the squareness of it and then put it all back together. So I'll give you a short clip of that in a second. Okay, so I've already cut half of this one off, and I went ahead and sliced the corners because they were not square. And the first thing is to make sure it didn't twist. I put this piece between them after I clamped this one in the vise to hold this piece flat this way along with this. And that also helps keep it level and doesn't let it hang down any. And I know there's some weight on that, but because this is clamped and flushed against this back here, it should remain to where they're straight. And you can see I've got a larger gap right there, and that's because that's what it took to get that to be to where it was square. And so now it is. And that probably happened last time when I built these because the way I had them jigged up, it allowed it to warp. And this time that shouldn't happen. And so I'm going to close up this gap, and I'm going to do the same thing over here, and then we're going to worry about the other half of this, which is laying right here. And you can obviously look, it goes closer together as it goes towards the opening, which tells me these aren't square either, so I got to fix them. So square these up. I'm going to finish cutting that one down and square it up, and then I'm going to weld the two of them back together with the short section missing out of the two of them, and I'll show you that. So I've got the frame done. I've got it spliced in the sides where I needed it to. I cut the corners and redone them to square them. And I added these extra gussets so they match the gusset that's inside there already. That way it'll seal properly. I've got everything ground down to where it's smooth, to where it'll fit. I'm leaving these welds because they won't matter. So the next thing is I'm going to have to sheet it with metal. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the metal just a little bit less than what's actually here. I'm looking at like 15 5/8 that direction, and I'm probably going to go like 27 3/4 that direction. So I'm going to lay out a piece of steel that I have, and I'm going to make the door that's going to be a part on top of this just by cutting it out. And I'll show you how I've got it laid out, and then we'll cut it. Alright, so I took the death wheel. You can see all the grinding dust. That was right there. And I scribed me some lines, and I cut this piece of sheet metal here to where it fits right over top of this door. And so I'm going to take and line it up where it basically sets on about half of the angle iron all the way around. That way when I weld the edge, it gives me a good edge. I'm going to have to knock the corners off of it to match the corners I knocked off of the door frame, but that's alright, I can do that here in a minute. Just going to push that back like that. And so I think that's good. And so I'm going to go ahead and tack several places around it so that's in place, and we'll go from there. So now I'm going to go around making sure, I'll probably take the cutting wheel and just make sure I'm halfway onto the angle iron, give myself kind of an area there. Like this side here is really good. I'll probably just weld this one all the way down, and then I'll just grind the edge over to make it look nice. But basically that right there is the door, and it's not light. I mean, that's 1/8 inch plate and this angle here, so it's pretty stout. So I'll go ahead and finish up all these edges and grind all that down, make that look pretty, and then we'll go to how we're going to lay out for the T-handle. So here we go. Hey Kagan, say hi.
Hi.
So here's where we're at, other than the fact that I am filthy. You'll have that. So everything's welded, and I'm not going to touch it because it's hot. That's welded all the way around. I got to take a grinder and knock the edges down and make it look pretty. And then over here, I have got to take a grinder to this edge right down through here to make sure that's pretty. Right, because this right here is going to cause, these knots are going to cause problems with the door gapping. But other than that, here in just a second, you guys will see a new cleaner me, because I'm done for the day, and I'll finish this video up on another day. So see you guys in just a second. Alright guys, so I will realize you probably can't see my scribe marks because I'm using a square tape measure, and I'm using a metal scribe on the metal again in order to make my lines, because it's pretty precise and I like the way it does that. I've made marks where this is going to go, and I made my marks there. I got to make one back from the edge here, but I also made my mark here, and I took my center punch and I punched it. and that's where the lock set's going to go. And I'm going to open that one up with a different drill bit, but I'm going to go ahead and there's my starter hole. So then I'll probably, because I've got a mark here on how big the hole can get, and then the rest of it I have to cut out this direction, but I'm going to take this unibit here and I'm going to work my way out to that edge with it. And then later I can always come in with a fine high-speed grinder and make that shape the way I need it to, or if I need to come out a little bit more. I don't want to take too much at once, because you know, you can always take more, but it's kind of hard to put back. Now with a welder you can, but I'm going to make my mark here, and then I'm going to cut this out. I'll probably drill the corners. I got to get me a new death wheel, because that one looks a little small. So I'll put a new wheel on, I'll cut this out, and then I'll be able to drill my holes to bolt my hardware in. So get my latch on here. So I have the rubber seal on, I have the latch on, it's bolted down, and so the latch is kind of help hold in place. I've got a file, which I can actually probably, well, not with this marker, I can't get it out. I have a file crammed in here that's about the right thickness as what I want for my gapping to be, and I put it in the bottom because that's kind of where these things tend to, they hit on the bottom. I've done the other door this way. And so now I've got pressure against the door because I've got this ratchet strap and this wood pushed against it, so the door kind of stays in place. So my next trick is I'm going to take a screwdriver and kind of wedge and walk the door around till I get my gapping where I want it to be. And then once I do that, I'm going to mark my places for my hinges like I did on the other side. I know you guys haven't seen the other side yet, but I'll show you both of them here in a bit. So let's get this thing pried around where it belongs. Okay, so I came down from the top of this at about 6 3/4 from the very top. So that's going to be about, from the inside of the door frame, about 3 3/4. And that matches the other side. And I came in the other side about 1 3/8. But after setting my hinge up there where I like it at, where it splits the difference in the gap, I ended up coming back towards the front of the truck just a little bit, because this is not all exactly the same. And I'm more at 1 inch and trying to think now, that would be, I can't do math on the fly in front of the camera, I'm nervous. It's a 1/16 less, which is not much. So my mark's a 1/16 less that way. So I'll make a mark there, drill that hole, and then I'll go ahead and put that bolt in. It'll pivot off of that. I've got my line drawn across, so I know where the one goes over here, and in doing so I will know where these 4 go, and then I'll come down and do the same thing on the next hinge. And because I've got it gapped about where I want it all the way around, I've got everything kind of wedged up with the file and the screwdriver on the bottom end. So let's put the hinges on. Apparently there are no nuts on the back side of the bolts. So I'm gonna drop this block off here. Just like that. Take the ratchet strap off. Now, uh-oh. Oh, yes, there we go, that's better. I turned it the wrong way, that matters. So, it's kind of staying there right now, but it's a little floppy, obviously, because we got no fasteners. So, I'm gonna put some fasteners on, and then we'll check the finished product. All right, so, pull them out. Turn, and look at that. Got my O-ring seal, got me a flange all the way around so it presses against the O-ring seal. Got my strut welded inside so I can make modular shelves I can move up and down. And when I close it, just got to push a little bit, turn, and then I can lock it. So, other side looks about like that. So now the doors are done on it. So guys, this one was a long one. I apologize. There's a lot going on. There's a lot to this. If you guys like what I'm doing, please hit that subscribe button below. I appreciate it, and we'll see you guys on the next one.